Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs and today I'm hanging out on the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel, so let's jump right in. So I'm going to make this really fun and vibrant birthday card to share with you guys, and to start we're going to cut down our cardstock. So I am going to make an A2 sized card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I like to layer my cardstock. That is kind of my preference. I like to create borders around my layers just because I love the look. So I'm going to create a black mat here that's going to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than my A2 base, and then the piece of cardstock that's going to go on top will be about a 1/4 of an inch smaller than the base. So that gives me just a thin layer all around. And then for the colors that I'm going to blend on, I have 3 Distress Oxide inks in Picked Raspberry, Carved Pumpkin, and Squeezed Lemonade. These are some of my favorite colors to create a really vibrant card, just because I love how they go down and I think that they're just so fun and so bright. But of course, you could change the color palette to any ink that you prefer or any color you prefer. This is just kind of my go-to. I love the Oxide inks, so especially for ink blending. So that's kind of what I went with. And you do see that my orange is just very, very juicy. I recently re-inked this and I actually kind of forgot that. So when we get into the white heat embossing, I'm going to struggle a little bit, but I'll show you how to fix that so that there are no issues. So I'm going to use a couple of new products from Honeybee. It's the Birthday Candle VGCB add-on stamps and dies. And I chose to kind of use one of the smaller images to kind of create my own card. So you could use all of them, especially if you have the box die that this goes with, but I didn't have that die and set, so I'm just going to use this really cute little cupcake. So you saw me treat my Distress ink blended card there, and I just treated it with my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to go in now and stamp out my little cupcake across the background. I'm kind of creating my own pattern paper, at least that's what I was thinking in my head with this, and I'm going to heat emboss them on top in white. But my orange is very juicy, and I did struggle with a little bit of the embossing powder ending up kind of not where I wanted it. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. I mean, the alternative is you could heat set your inks before you add any of the ink that we're doing here, any of the stamping. Or alternatively, you could leave your ink to dry longer than I did. So there are a couple of ways you could have avoided this situation. But because I like to kind of create my videos in one session, I was just moving a bit too quickly and the inks just were not ready for me. So you're going to see here when I put on the embossing powder, a lot of it sticks to the orange areas. Like that whole end cupcake is pretty much full of embossing powder. So I'm going to show you how I chose to fix this, but there are a few ways to avoid this. Like I said, heat set your ink before you try to add the stamping and the embossing powder, and that would have prevented this as well. But that takes, pre-planning, and at the time I wasn't thinking about that. So I'm going to kind of pour it on where I want it and then see the areas that need some help. And you see me flick it and try to get it off, but I couldn't quite get it off. So I like to bring in just a flat paintbrush, and I kind of just wipe away any of the embossing that are in areas that it shouldn't be. I don't want it in the outside of the cupcakes. I certainly don't want it on the inside of the cupcakes. So really anywhere that I just don't want it to be. Mostly this was a problem in the orange, but I did a little bit in the pink as well. That's just because I didn't let my inks dry a little bit more before I did this. But I still think the card turned out super adorable, and I love how it looks. And there are another couple of ways to hide this that we will use here when we get into the card, that'll kind of camouflage the fact that there's a little bit of not really great stamping in the background, or embossing. The stamping looks cool. It's the embossing powder that's just a little bit everywhere that I didn't want it. So I'll show you a couple of ways to help mask that as well. The first way I like to do is I like to add splatters to the background, and you could do this in several ways. I like to use Perfect Pearls because it gives it a little sheen, but you could use, white because we've already brought in white, or you could use the colors that we've already ink blended in the background, pink and orange and yellow. You could do any way you want to. I find splatters really help distracts the eye from the little bit of embossing powder that might have gone kind of where you wouldn't like it to be. And it also adds texture and dimension and interest to the background. So that's something that I love, and that's kind of what I did. And then another way would be to add just a gem or something on top at the end. So that's also a choice which we will use as well. And then I brought that same cupcake in excuse me, and I stamped it out on Copic Safe paper with Copic Safe ink because I am going to color them to match the background. I just thought it'd be a really fun, vibrant card, so that's kind of what I thought I would go with. So for my Copic colors, these are the blends that I kind of thought worked really well to match the background but still stand out on their own. So for the oranges, I have the YR04 and YR07. I did choose to just use a 2-color blend for this because the images are quite small. I didn't feel like I would get a ton of detail in, so I thought 2 colors would be perfect. But if you like more, absolutely do more shading, more highlights. This is just kind of what I went with. And then for the pink, I used RV04 and RV06. And I do like to do a layer of my lightest color, and then I go over it with my darkest color, and then I kind of blend it all together with the lightest color again. There is no wrong way to Copic color. Some people do dark to light, some people do light to dark. Totally up to you and your comfort level. I just find that I have more control if I go light to dark. So it's kind of what I was choosing there. And then for my yellow, which we're going to do next, I used Y13 and Y15, and I chose to have the icing be the bright part of these little cupcakes. I thought that would be really fun, and I'm a huge fan of cupcakes. They're one of my favorite desserts, so I thought this would be just a really cute and fun card that you could pretty much give to, it could be for an adult, it could be for a child. I think that it would fit pretty well to anybody who loves vibrant colors or anything bright. So anything fun like that was kind of what I was thinking when I chose my colors. And then for the little tins that the cupcakes are in, I chose to use N3 and N5, and that's just a neutral gray. You could do anything here if you wanted to. I just didn't want to introduce new colors to my card. I already had black in the background, and I'm going to use black to stamp or to have my sentiment later, but I just chose not to add a whole bunch of different color here. So you could of course come in with different colors if you prefer, but I kind of kept the little tin a little bit neutral so that I could have them match the background of the card as well. And I did the exact same shading on all of the little cupcakes. I kind of went in with a wash of the lightest color, which is the N3, and then I just shaded along the bottom and along with the lines that are already drawn in the cupcake, and then went over it again with the N3 so that I could blend them together. So I kind of like how that looks. And I am going to die cut these out, but I am going to add a little bit of white highlights to them first. I find that white highlights on colored images just give it something extra to pop. I really love how that looks, so I kind of keep leaning towards that. Every time I bust out my Copic markers, I like to add just like a white highlight. And then I did bring in just the black 100 marker to color the candles, because again, I didn't want to add new colors to it. I just really thought that would be kind of fun. And then for the flame that's on the top, I used Y13 and YR04, which was the 2 lightest colors of the yellow and the orange. And you'll see those better when we hold up the card at the end, but it just kind of gives a little bit of something to the little flame that is on top of the candle. And then I came in with the white detail, as I said, and this just adds a little bit of something extra. It isn't a necessary step. If you weren't interested in this, you could absolutely skip it, but I do find that it just kind of gives it a little more life. And it is difficult to see on the yellow coloring just because white and yellow are so close. But once I hold it up, you will be able to see it. And it is a lot easier to see on the and the pink and the orange. And then for the candle, I actually went over them and just drew a little design. I did little polka dots on 2 of them and then little stripes just to add a little bit of interest to the candles because I thought that was kind of fun. Now I do have the matching die set, and I'm just going to use my little die cutting machine to run them through here. And I thought that would be kind of fun because this will allow me to pop those dies up on the card and give them a little bit of extra dimension to separate from the background. And so I thought that would be kind of fun when we went to actually assemble the card together. But I did use some low tack tape just to keep the die in place because I was worried about it shifting. And I find that I'm honestly not the best person at lining images up. I struggle for some reason with this. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's just because I'm not sure what area to line up to, but I do find that I struggle just a little bit to get the images lined up when I go to use the individual dies. But it's just one of those things, I guess I'll get better as I do it more often. And I did cut them apart just so they could easily fit through my little die cutting machine here so that I'd have no issues. So I ran them all through, and then we're going to kind of start laying out the card how I'd like it to look. I opted to have them be almost centered, but slightly to one edge, just because I thought it would give it a little more interest. So you can see they're slightly closer to the bottom than the top, but they're very close to the center. That's just because I wasn't totally sure where I wanted them to be, but I thought covering a little bit of the weird embossing in the orange would be the best bet. So that's kind of what I went with. And then this is in the stamp set as well. It's a little banner, and then I chose to put happy birthday inside of it. So I stamped it down on some black cardstock, and then I'm going to white heat emboss on it as well. And I just put the embossing powder on the banner so that I could see where it was. So when I went to stamp my happy birthday, I have a better visual of where the lines were so that I didn't stamp on top of them. And then now we're actually going to go and heat set it. And I did use my anti-static powder tool on this as well, just because I do find that I get better results as long as I let things dry generally. And then I just quickly embossed that, and I'm going to run that through my little die cutting machine as well, just so I can easily cut it out and have this really cute banner. And the banner is going to be the piece that we actually pop up on the front after we've done kind of all our layers and laid them out. And I thought this card turned out pretty cute, actually. I had no real plan other than I knew that I really wanted to use a small image to create a whole card, because I thought that would be a really fun challenge. And that's kind of what I went with. And then we just built off of there. So now I'm going to adhere all of my layers, and I like that thin border, as I said, so you'll see that as I kind of adhere them down. I just get this really cute thin border around all of my layers, and that kind of helps them pop, I find. And yeah, that's kind of just what I was thinking when I was making this card, and I think it came together pretty great. So I would love if you guys would subscribe to the channel. There are a lot of phenomenal creators on this team, and I'd love for you to be able to check out their work if that's an interest to you. If you like what you see, subscribe and come back and check out some of the other creators, because I know there are some great creators as a part of this channel. So come back and support them as well. And so I'm going to adhere all of the stuff here now. So I kind of had them laid out exactly how I wanted them. So I'm just lifting the bottom cupcakes, and I'm just adding a little bit of glue behind them, and then just kind of adhering them down. And you can see that I have them all at slightly different levels as well. So that kind of gives you some depth and makes it look like they're all sitting kind of at a different stage, so that you kind of get a little more interest than if they're just straight across. And I am going to add that little birthday banner at the bottom so that the cupcakes don't look like they're just randomly floating on the card. Something will ground them and give them a little bit more of a base to sit on. But for the banner, I am going to bring in just some thin 3D foam squares. These are the black ones, so they match the banner. And then I'm just going to adhere that at the bottom of the cupcake tin so that they kind of just sit nicely together, and they're all kind of tucked into that banner so that none of them are just oddly floating in the air. They kind of look like they're all grounded and make sense. So hopefully this card was kind of fun to watch come together. It's really fun and vibrant, which is really my thing. I love vibrant cards, so I'm always kind of drawn to them. And I did have to add just a couple of gems across the card just to finish it off, because I like everything shimmery and shiny. That's really my jam, so I kind of had to add that as well. But that is the card I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed watching it come together. I hope you'll consider leaving a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel so you guys can come back and check out all the great designers. Thank you so much, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.